The Cheating Death Podcast is a comedy podcast providing objective information about anything and everything under the sun. We are not political nor religious. We are analytical and slightly litigious. Viewer discretion is advised. On today's episode of the Cheating Death Podcast, we get into the Pennhurst Asylum, provide you with an all-new Annihilation Announcement, and an all-new mailbag episode, of course. New joke on the way for you as well, dear listeners. And we'd like to thank Hunter and Ransom for their recent kind donations to the Buy Me a Coffee Support Fund. Things are really rough right now, and they will be for the next couple of months at least, so their support is greatly appreciated. And Carol, again, thank you for that donation as well to the Injury Support Fund. You have no idea how much that means. You know what to do, dear listener. On this program, you are invited to engage with your mind and with everything that you thought was mere ideology. By now, you know what to do. Grab a coffee, kick off your shoes, and put your feet up. Grab a warm blanket, and let us tell you how you can cheat death. This is your news anchor, the Cleric of Chaos, and this is your Annihilation Announcement. We take for granted the very fabric of society and how delicate it is. The human mind may be resilient, but it is also, on the other side, equally fragile. We, as a species, really like to speak about pushing ourselves to the limit, hustle culture, trying to grind to make an extra dollar, but then the next moment, while being completely unaware of what we had just said, we also complain about requiring caffeine and being too tired and being on that grind. It is time that a lot of us look at ourselves in the mirror and we understand where we come from, our limitations, and just how beautiful we are. The whole point is to enjoy life, not to force yourself through it. This is all but a temporary stop on your existential journey. The next 75 to the next 100 years are all but a mere flash in the pan. Take it from a man who knows death firsthand. You are not going to get out of this alive. No one does. So do what you can to be happy, regardless of the situation, regardless of how you feel, regardless of whether or not you can or cannot move. Find the bliss in your life. This has been your news anchor, the Cleric of Chaos, and this is your Annihilation Announcement. Guten Morgen, guten Tag und eine gute Nacht ist deine Reisende und deine Ausländer und deine Allesfresser, deine Schauspieler und deine Werknichte. Du ganz allein? Nicht deines, nicht mehr. Bist du traurig? Es ist nicht mehr. Komm mit mir to Spring City, Pennsylvania, dear listeners. For today, we go all the way back to 1908 to Pennhurst Insane Asylum. Yes, dear listener, at the time that Henry Ford was making waves with the early renditions of his motor vehicle, and all the while Mr. Woodrow Wilson was preparing for one of the worst presidential terms in human history, we look a little bit further east to Spring City, Pennsylvania. Pennhurst Insane Asylum, dear listeners, was opened to the public in 1908, and contrary to popular belief and misconception, this facility was opened with the sole intention at curing and rehabilitating the mentally disabled. However, back in those times, and specifically around this area, the committee put together by the state of Pennsylvania and Spring County were advised that those in whom were to be the prototypes behind these walls were individuals in whom today would just be considered disagreeable drunks. For you see, dear listener, it was a common misconception back in the late 1800s and all the way through to the mid-1900s when alcohol, liquor, was not as pure, when the product itself led to more poisoning and more issues than what was to be seen. Obviously, with manufacturing issues, there are going to be quality control situations that pop up out of nowhere. So, when you take into consideration, dear listener, exactly how much you have to drink today at a bar to get yourself inebriated, if you are a fairly regular drinker, you may be looking at anywhere between 2 to 4, maybe 5 shots of your generic rail vodka or your generic rail rye. And if you feel spicy at the end of the evening, you might have a shot or two of tequila, and then that's it, right? Well, we here at the podcast prefer to drink a bottle of tequila before we go anywhere, but that is another topic for another day. Back in 1908, should you decide to have yourself a pint after a day at the factory and you get into a disagreement with a fella, there is a good chance that you may be put on a list for incarceration in Pennhurst Insane Asylum. Understand that there was unsanitary, inhumane, and dangerous conditions that led to a very successful and very unbelievable class action lawsuit that alleged 3,000 plus of the individuals in whom dwelled within the walls at the time were not treated properly. Because between 1908 and 1987, when the facility was in operation, there were numerous family members, numerous generations of people who took documents and consulted legal firms over the course of time. And it was after this decision in 1986 to where the class action lawsuit forced Pennhurst Insane Asylum to close its doors after a mere 79 years in 1987. Would you like to know more about Pennhurst Insane Asylum? If you would like to, you are more than welcome to email us at thecheatingdeathpodcast@gmail.com, or you may visit the American Library of Congress. Thank you for tuning in today. Take care of yourselves and each other. Today's joke has been brought to you by the Cleric of Chaos. There is a man who was struck by a vehicle at such a high velocity that he was lucky to be alive, though this man was somehow, some way laying in critical condition in the hospital bed with no skeleton. It is safe to say that he does not have a bone to pick with the driver. On today's episode of the Mailbag, we stop off in Olympia, Washington as we answer a question from Ken. Ken asks, "Hey, Cheating Death Podcast, I know you like to talk about food a lot. Have you been out to the Pacific Northwest? And if so, what is your favorite food from here? Love the show. Keep up the great work. Well, thank you so very much for your question, Ken. And unfortunately, I have not been out to the Pacific Northwest for any longer than what it would take to get drive-through from your local McDonald's, your local Dunkin' Donuts, or Starbucks. But I hear there are these delicacies known as Idaho potatoes. And I hear there is a food reviewer in one of your lovely states that needs to be taught how to do food reviews properly. So, it is possible, dear Ken, that this may indeed happen in the near future. Thank you so very much for your question. Our next question comes to us from Sharon in Gary, Indiana. Sharon asks, "Hey, Cheating Death Podcast, long-time listener. Really love what you do with the show, and I love your top 5 lists. My question to you is, how do you like your eggs?" Well, Sharon, that is a rather very direct question and very much so appreciated. Thank you for taking time to write into the program. And if I'm being very direct and forthright, there is only one way to have one's eggs: scrambled and with black pepper and a tiny bit of crushed garlic. Because at the end of the day, scrambled eggies are tasty and very delicious and very easy to eat, while also having a lot of protein. Just make sure that you either use a very, 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 very small amount of 2% milk or lactose-free protein dairy beverage. Do not use heavy cream unless you are doing it for a special occasion. Thank you so very much for your question. Our next question comes to us from Norman, Oklahoma, and comes to us from Eugene. Eugene asks, "Hey there, Cheating Death Podcast. Hope you're having a great morning. I noticed recently that America has been going through some pretty crazy things, and especially with everything happening on the political spectrum. How do you feel about the way things are going in America, and do you think that Donald Trump is a nice person?" To be blunt, I'm not entirely certain as to whether or not this is a troll question, but I will answer it anyway. We are neither political nor religious. We are analytical and slightly litigious. Quite frankly, my heart hurts for the people of America, the hard-working denizens and citizens of one of the most beautiful landmasses on the planet. The citizens are tired. The hard-working, beautiful, dedicated, absolutely strong American people deserve better. And that's all I'm going to say on that matter. Our last question of today's mailbag comes to us from Roswell, New Mexico. Amy asks, "Hey there, Cheating Death Podcast. Love the show. I noticed that you like ghosts and things. Have you heard of the 1947 Roswell incident? And if so, what is your opinion?" Well, that's an absolutely tremendous question. And yes, 1947 was an absolutely dismal time for Roswell, New Mexico, especially with the belief that aliens were prevalent and that debauchery was all around with the United States military. However, given the nature of the situation, there is absolutely a volume of information that one can look if they wish to familiarize themselves with the Roswell incident of 1947. And my opinion on it is that there are aliens, not only within that incident, but there are aliens dwelling within this planet. There are different dimensional beings around you at all times. There are different existences happening simultaneously. Never, ever take anything for granted. And remember, nothing is what it seems. That'll conclude today's mailbag. If you wish to have your question read, leave a comment beneath on the YouTube channel or whatever podcast platform you're listening to, or email us at thecheatingdeathpodcast@gmail.com. At the top of the program, we promised you a list of our top 5 favorite actresses. This is just a general list for now. How we're feeling. Coming in at number 5, we have Helen Mirren. Coming in at number 4, we of course have Octavia Spencer. Coming in at number 3, we have Wanda Sykes. Coming in at number 2, we of course have the legend Audrey Hepburn. And coming in at number 1, we have Jamie Lee Curtis / Kathy Bates. What is your top 5? Email us at thecheatingdeathpodcast@gmail.com. Pennhurst is a rather unique venture in that it is one of the few facilities in Pennsylvania to have lost a class action lawsuit with respect to how it treated its patients. Take this into consideration, dear listeners. Over the course of time, you will age. You will eventually require end-of-life care. Do what you can to understand the plights of those in whom may not be able to understand what is going on around them. 1908 was a hell of a time. Let's try not to replicate it. Thank you for tuning in today. Take care of yourselves and each other. The Cheating Death Podcast is brought to you by Nachdem Leben CRDVC, Chaos Realm, Cleric of Chaos, and where you may find all podcasts on all platforms. We'd like to thank Ransom and Hunter for their generous donations to the Buy Me a Coffee Fund. It's going to be rough here for the next couple of months, so we here at the program are very grateful and very appreciative for your help. We'd also like to thank Carol for her recent support to the Injury Support Fund. It is absolutely appreciated immensely on levels I could not possibly articulate. If you or anyone you know are experiencing psychiatric duress or domestic violence or any type of emergency health situation, please call any one of the numbers listed on the podcast and episode's description 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You are not alone. Your life is valuable. You will survive and be stronger because of it. If you would like to follow the program, you may do so at youtube.com/@Cleric of Chaos and youtube.com/@WeAllCheatDeath. Follow all of our friends in the program at the links in the episode's description, and follow us when you look at twitter.com/Cleric of Chaos and twitter.com/WeAllCheatDeath. If you are looking at adopting a playful puppy or a cute kitten, please visit your local animal adoption rescue center. And remember, dear listener, life is not easy, but you should be easy on yourself. Remember, we're pulling for you. We're all in this together.